Hey, everybody, welcome back to the show. Like I said in the introduction, I'm here with the Hobbyist Miner to talk about all things Bitcoin mining, crypto mining, home mining. Man, I am so excited to get into this conversation because I think our origin story is very similar. So this one's going to be a
Yep.
lot of fun. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. This will be a good time. It was a pleasure meeting you at Mining Disrupt a few weeks ago, and it's kind of trickled down this avenue of us collaborating more. So I'm excited to jump into it.
Yeah, very excited. How was the rest of Mining Disrupt for you? You were busy.
Yeah, it was great. It was my first mining event. I'm newer to the scene, about 3 years under my belt. First mining conference event that I had been to, and super enjoyable. Got to meet a lot of these companies that I've interfaced with over the last 3 years, collaborated with, partnered with. So it was a good time. But yes, very busy. I had my content creator hat on and was just trying to ingest as much as I could. My goal of the event being there was very much I want to get some eyes on the floor so that people at home that couldn't make the event at least felt like they were there.
I have to say you did just an absolute top-notch job too, because what I loved was how quick you could turn out your videos. And
Yeah.
I don't know if you even want to touch on the secret
No,
sauce
sure.
to how that happened, but I mean, yeah, it was
Yeah.
fun because it was I saw you the one day and then there I was the next morning watching your
Yep.
video and I was like, "Holy shit, there it is." Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't grinding. There was a certain amount. My goal was very much like what I did was I planned ahead, and I have a thumbnail editor who does all my thumbnails for my YouTube content, so he kind of knew what was going on. So he kind of created some templates for what we'd use, and then I was just taking pictures at the event to incorporate into the thumbnail. So that was an easy one. Kept him in the loop throughout the day, and then on the editing side, this was the first time I hired an editor, someone I knew within the crypto scene, which worked out well. It's always the best thing is to
Yeah.
find someone who understands the actual context. And he actually was located in Australia, so I would finish up and get everything to him about 6, 7, 8, or 9 o'clock at night Eastern time, and he'd be just getting up for the day. So it was perfect. He'd fit it into his schedule, and by the time I woke up the next morning, it was edited and uploaded to my channel, and then I would clean it all up, add the thumbnail, add all the details, all the SEM, and then release it out there that next morning. So it was a lot of fun. I think my biggest struggle was just finding fast enough internet because I was recording everything in 4K. So it
Yeah.
was like,
Yeah.
man,
Yeah.
So I traveled to a few places, visited a few Airbnbs that I knew people were at, and took advantage of their internet to get by.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, can I come over and use your
Yeah,
Wi-Fi?
that's
It's
100%, 100%.
awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, let's what I like to do with all the guests on the show is kind of a walk through the background and then like what led you to Bitcoin crypto
Mhm.
mining. So maybe just like give us some background and what led you into the world of crypto Bitcoin mining.
Sure. So, go back a few years ago. I feel like that's how everyone's story starts. But like I feel like it was 18, maybe 19, maybe 17, somewhere in there. But I'm in the tech field traditionally, and I had stumbled across a website called MinerGate. A lot of people are familiar with it. Pretty much, it's a platform. It was like the early days where, for a lot of these platforms, where you could set up a machine computer on MinerGate, hit mine, and it would look at all your resources and then figure out what the best thing to mine at that moment was. And then it
Hmm.
would pivot to the next thing and pivot to the next thing. So you would end up having a wallet on their side or a dashboard on their side with boatloads of different cryptocurrencies, tons of them that don't even exist today of those projects, some that do. And So I kind of found this rabbit hole in the tech space. It was a simple started up with Windows, so I ended up buying up about 20 to 25 different computers, plugged them in a basement, ran them, and I got like 6 months into it, kind of that beginner's avenue. It was like, oh, this isn't making anything. I'm out of here type of deal. And
Oh,
that was before the last bull run and everything. And that kind of introduced me to crypto a little bit, but I wasn't doing anything. Like all of those coins just sat on this platform in my account and didn't do anything with it. So then jump ahead a few years. To 21 uh at the height of the bull run. I remember coming in around February, and it was a coming in as a content creator. Like that was my goal.
Oh,
content
okay.
creator in the crypto space. So content creation was the primary, the subject matter was crypto mining. And I just kind of started. I remember February 5th was my first video I put out, and it was like a friend of mine gave me a mining frame, a mining motherboard, and some risers. And I created a video on just that. It was like, here's what I have. And it worked out beautifully because I knew nothing. And that's how I presented it to my audience. I'm like, I don't know anything, but I'm going to figure it out as I go, and I'll share
Yeah.
my story. So that's kind of how I got started.
That's fantastic. And I mean, what a different entry point. And
Yeah.
that's the biggest reason I like to ask to start there, because everyone's so different and everyone's coming at it from such different angles, and that's cool. Yes, okay, so content was primary and mining was secondary.
Yep.
And so I'm curious, once you did start with the mining, did you start to have was there ever a moment where it was like, ooh, actually, this is kind of cool, and here's how you can start to monetize this aspect of it? Was there some of that started to happen?
Yeah, so I it was like perfect timing for me. Most people know that when you are a content creator on YouTube or other platforms, it's very rare for you to be successful. Very few people become successful, and I've dabbled in content creation in the past with other industries, and it just never took off. So when I came in, it was right before Elon Musk and the whole Dogecoin pump and push and stuff. So the timing was incredible because everybody and their brother was looking up crypto mining, cryptocurrency,
Mm-hmm.
Dogecoin, Bitcoin, everything. And then you got this guy over here that's like, hey, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to try and share my journey with you to hopefully you learn. And people ate that up. And so my first 3 months, I was making a video of some kind on my iPhone 5 days a week. And it was just like, here's what I'm doing, point and click. I wasn't even showing my face then. It was just,
Oh,
walking
wow, yeah.
around, talking, doing stuff. And 3 months in, I hit 5,000 subscribers on YouTube, which was incredible for me, as I never had that type of success on YouTube before. And it just took off from there. So it was super surprising. And that's kind of when it started to go like, wow, there's something here. Like,
Yeah.
I can continue doing this. It started to become lucrative. You can monetize at 1,000 subs on YouTube. So I was starting to make some money per month, and the views were insane because if you go back and look on Google Trends, like everybody and their brother was searching for that. You could plug in anything; it was profitable.
Yeah.
So it was a little, it kind of, I saw the light very quickly, and then I got hooked very quickly once I started mining as well.
Yeah. And so you mentioned kind of that first setup was like a GPU rig.
Yeah,
What were some of the first projects you were mining? Maybe talk through, like, what
sure.
did you start with? What did you cut your teeth on?
Yeah, so people are gonna laugh a little bit, but I had that mining motherboard. Didn't even know what I had, and then I had this B250 motherboard in there too, which is a pretty decent motherboard because of the amount of GPUs it could handle. And I had those risers, and so I like got it set up, and I really didn't know what I'm doing, to be honest. I watched a lot of other content creators to learn, and I was like, all right, I want to buy some really really cheap graphics cards, two of them, that just to figure out like, can I even mine? Like, will
Mm-hmm.
this even work? And so I bought two MSI 970s. They're 4 GB, and then I think they were like $100 each. And I bought them and recorded like my first, second video with them. Installing them was like the first video. Second video was like mining Ravencoin on them at that point with the Kapow algorithm. And I literally mined with them for like 2 weeks. And then I sold
Okay.
them for double the price. Like,
Holy
I was
shit.
like, all
Yeah.
right, I want better. And
Yeah.
the market was just like booming. Like, you could list anything and it would be gone in seconds. And this was, during the time period before like LHR and graphics cards came out. And before, this was like when it was hard to find graphics cards and the prices were through the roof, especially for used ones. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's kind of how I jumped in and kind of that first taste. I think,
Ravencoin, nonetheless. Yeah.
yeah, Carter Bitsby Trippin says it best, where it's like when you're trying to get friends of yours or other people into crypto, the moment a mining rig or an ASIC mine something and it hits your wallet for the first time, you're sold.
You're hooked.
You're hooked. You're hooked 100%. He always, every interview I've done and chatted with him, he always makes that comparison because it is 100% accurate.
Oh yeah, I mean it was one of the biggest selling points for my wife.
Yeah.
So I didn't personally, I didn't have the know-how
Mhm.
to set up a GPU mining rig.
Yeah.
So I went straight to ASICs. I
Good
jumped
for
in and
you.
bought.
Bold.
Yeah, well, it's just so easy. I mean,
Oh,
there's
it is.
buy the
Yep.
box, plug the box in, sign
Yep.
into the IP. Like it couldn't get easier. But the selling point for me was my wife thought I lost my mind. She's like, "You're gonna buy what? And
Yep. I get it. I
you're
get
gonna
it.
mine? What does mining mean?" I was like, "That's sorry. It's a terrible. It's a terrible description of what the hell's
Yep.
going on here."
Yep.
But as soon as she started to see BTC deposited into our wallet, oh, okay. So this is kind of
Mhm.
like a rental,
Yeah.
like a
Yep.
multifamily rental unit. Like it just pays us out on the schedule that we set it. So yeah, it was pretty cool. For myself mostly, but then it was cool to see it kind of click for her. It was like, oh, so it's
Yeah.
just gonna drop money into our wallet. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, jumping ahead, like that's one of the better feelings now, like especially during a bear market. And I know we're jumping ahead here a little bit, but seeing that Bitcoin hit your wallet every day now, multiple times a day, it's like, oh, this is cool. Like that, it's not just like once every few weeks; it's like a few times a day now. So
Mm-hmm.
it's been awesome.
Yeah, it was. So you moved into ASICs as well, right? So maybe just kind of like
Sure.
map out your setup right now.
Yeah.
Like where are you at currently?
Yeah, so pretty quickly, mined in my basement. It was an unfinished basement. Decent amount of GPUs there. Stayed with GPUs at that point in time. ASICs were so out of reach, like 15, 16, 17 grand as a home miner. It wasn't obtainable. It didn't make sense. And I was in the bull market. So at that point, I started to get into a few little mini ASICs from like Gold Shell and stuff like that, traditional home miners. iPolos, things like that. And I decided to refinish my basement. And at that same time, I actually went from the basement into a grow tent. If you guys aren't familiar, a grow tent, imagine it's pretty much like a thicker tent canvas material that a lot of people use for like hydroponic out there. AC Infinity is a big company that makes them.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're growing all different types of things, marijuana, or if you're growing vegetables or whatever you're doing in your house, you would use this, keeps the humidity. So I took those and I ended up putting GPUs in those and pulling an intake from one window and exhausting it out the other into this tent. And it got by for a little while, but I outgrew it quickly because I was in like expansion mode, grow faster,
Yeah.
faster. And then I built a mining room in my basement when I was redoing my basement. Had about 6,000 CFM coming into it, 6,000 CFM going out of it. 30 amp 240 volt power in there, monitoring everything, and I quickly outgrew that. Just too much heat, couldn't handle it. I needed to refine it and jump back, and I wasn't quite into ASICs yet, like full size ASICs or mid size ASICs. So jump back a year ago, about a year and a month ago, and that's when I think I really like took that step. And I decided to build a crypto mining shed in my backyard. And it was a smaller shed. It's like 8x7, nothing crazy. But I took everything I learned and all the mistakes I made, and it's all on YouTube if you're interested. And one wall of this small, skinny shed is literally all intake with filters and everything. And the opposite wall is all high CFM exhaust from AC Infinity. And I built a wind tunnel, a small wind tunnel, and it was one of my best ideas. If I'm going to pick victories, best ideas, getting mining out of your house, the noise, the heat, all of that out of my house was a huge move for me. And that's when it allowed me to go from GPUs to ASICs. So then I started to go into full size ASICs and all different projects out there. And that's worked out really, really well. And I'm actually in the process in the next 2 weeks of launching my second shed, not on my property, my electrician's property, became buddy with him. And that's a
right.
12 by 12 shed. and that will be fully ASICs. So that's a quick catch up of like my journey over the last 2 years, 2.5 years.
I appreciate it. And, so a big focus on the podcast is, on the power side of things.
Yeah.
I'd be curious, was there any conversation with the power company or, maybe at what point did you say, this power rate, I could probably find it a little bit better or talk to the power like, was there that genesis in there as you were going through this?
Yeah, so going back when I first got started, you kind of looked the other way. Now, granted, it was in the bull run, so I mean, Ethereum was incredibly profitable then as a GPU miner, and the price of electricity, I call it price gouging. Price gouging didn't exist like it did today. Your electric rates were more traditional, around 10 cents then when I started, so it wasn't something I was focused on, I'll be honest with you, until I started to get more and more hardware, and then it was like, all right, this electric bill is really stacking up. So as a home miner, you're limited. Now in Pennsylvania, the nice thing is, and those of you guys that are in the NPA, there's two sides of your electric bill: a distribution side and a supply side. Your distribution side is for me, it's PPL. I can't change that. That's who I'm locked in with. That's who the one that are providing that to me. And that one's always been lower. It's been like 4.5 cents, which has been great. But don't get too excited yet, because you still have another side of your electric bill. Everybody needs to get their hands in the cookie jar. So the other side of the electric bill traditionally is that same company, and that's the supply side. And that was always, more like, and so when I started to look at it in Pennsylvania, one of the nice things that has been done through legislation is that you can rate shop your supply. Think of it as like the last mile. That's pretty much like the last mile carrier if you're thinking like internet services, things like that. So there's a lot of companies in Pennsylvania, and go back 2.5 years ago, there was a boatload of them out there that, crypto miners didn't exist. So it was the avenue of being able to, okay, what options? And at that point, when I started to look at my electric bill, and that was really when it was around $300, $400 a month. So we're not talking about a ton, but a decent amount as a home miner. That I found a company called WGL, and it was just a reseller, is all it was. And they had this plan out there that they offered for that supply side that was unlimited, which is like, wait, what? Yeah, it was an unlimited plan. They call these subscription plans. And what they would do is they'd look at your 12-month history and they'd give you a price. Well, they didn't really look at my 12-month history. They just kind of gave me a flat price the day on the phone. I was talking with them. There's a website called PA Power Switch that you can go on, put in all your info, and it gives you all these companies and who you talk to. You can even do it now right through those websites. You don't even have to talk to anybody.
Wow.
But got set up with them, and it was for $59 a month. So on the left side of my bill, it wasn't an electric rate. It was a set price.
I was going to say, it's flat. It doesn't scale with your consumption.
It doesn't scale. So the left side is a locked in $59, and on the right side was 4.5 cents. So I was singing. I was like, this is awesome. And that carried me through my first year of mining. And which it kind of, I was kind of blinded to reality that like the electric cost, that's one of the biggest operating expenses for any crypto home miner or large mining facility. So that's how I dealt with that originally, year one. Then what happened is year two comes up, and these are all like 12-month contracts that you work with these companies.
Okay.
So year two comes up, and WGL is like, we can't renew with you, which I get it. Like, I mean, and now I wasn't even into ASICs yet. So we were still, and we were on algorithms like Ethereum that are pretty efficient. So, we weren't going crazy quite yet. Year two comes up, and it's like, well, okay, I'm approaching that contract deadline, and I'm like, what do I do? I got all this equipment, and at that time I hadn't gone into a shed quite yet. And I went ahead and swapped to a different company. I found another one out there. They were still out there, still looking good. And that was with a company that I looked at, which was a company named Santana. Same exact setup. They didn't look at any of my history, and they were like $39 a month. And I'm like, dude, I am riding this wave as long as I can. So I was on them for 2 weeks, and I literally got a call. I remember it was like 8 o'clock at night. Got a call from someone at that company, and they were like, "Listen, we got to kick you off this plan." And there was
Oh,
no like, they were like, "You're using way too much electric for it." And I probably could have fought it if I wanted to, because of the fact of like,
you probably
that's
signed a
not my
contract. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Like, you had committed to this. They do like the whole phone recording, so like go through all the legality stuff. And I even asked on that phone call, I was like, it doesn't matter how much I use, how little I use, the set rate. But I wasn't going to get into it. I was like, I don't have time
Hmm.
to mess with it. I was like, I need to keep my mining stuff up and running. So then I moved to a company named Inspire, and that's actually worked really well. And I've had to play the game. So I was with Inspire for a full year there, and that one was about $129. But that was
Still
still
not bad.
insane.
Yeah.
And when that ended up coming up, they came back to me, and by that time I started to like get my shit up and running. So now going on to another anniversary date there, and they wanted something crazy like $1,800, because they were like,
Aha.
"We're not dumb." Like this, and the whole time at that point, I decided to start to look into like, do I add another meter? Do I reached out and started to talk with them about commercial rates and stuff like that. But the commercial rates didn't make sense. It really didn't make sense. You get double charged with a commercial rate on not
Mm.
only the kilowatt but also your kilowatt hours, and it wasn't low enough to compete with what I was doing. Like, traditionally, for traditional miners, your enterprise and commercial miners, it would have been. But if I could shop it like I continued doing, I would have been okay. So I went to another company. They kicked me off within a few weeks as well. But the weird thing was, I went back to Inspire again, and they just looked at me as a new customer,
Oh
which
my
was
God.
amazing. Yeah, I was like, what? So I've played the game over the
Yeah.
years, and you unfortunately have to play the game. And is it honest and truthful? It is. I mean, I'm using a service. The difference is Inspire ends up looking at they've learned. All these companies have learned. They
I
don't
was
even
gonna say, I think
advertise.
you probably taught many lessons.
Yeah, and so they've learned. They don't even advertise these on their sites anymore. You actually have to call and ask about them. So if you're interested, look into it. It's called subscription plan. Don't even call it an unlimited plan, just subscription plan. And I ended up negotiating with them a little bit. They looked at my 12-month history, knew I used a lot of electric. They came at me at like $580 some on that left side, and I got them down to like $444. They were willing to chat through it. So that's where I'm currently at now at my location here. So all said and done, you have $444 on the left side, and the right side is about 4.5 cents. So I average per month about $1,300 in an electric bill for about 25,000 to almost 30,000 watts is what I'm running here. It's about 150 amps is what
I
I'm
was gonna say
using
it's
here.
almost 200 amp. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, my house is 200 amps. I give my house 50, and I use 150 for mining. And then I played this same strategy with building another shed. That's what I'm going to be launching here in 2 weeks at my electrician's house, because you think of it, everything's based off of your usage and your history. My
Hmm.
electrician's a single guy. He's never home because he's an electrician. So I worked with him to work with the power company, and they gave him a price of $99 a month. And I'm going to load that up with all ASICs. So literally, I signed the contract with them. He signed the contract with them. We got it all set up, and we'll be launching that in 2 weeks at his house. He's gonna start using some ASICs too. I'm gonna move my ASICs over there and expand here with GPUs.
Yep.
My electric rate, by the way, I didn't mention there, but because of this, if you just take the amount of watts I use and you divide it by the price of your bill, mine comes out to about 7 cents. Is where I'm at now, which is still unheard of as a home miner.
Still really good. Yeah.
Yeah, and the more you use, if you do the math, the cheaper your electric rate is because of that locked in variable. So for over there with him, we calculated out if we max everything out, still keep with the 80% rule for safety, we will be at 4 cents. 4 cents for
Wow.
12 months at, is what it'll give us.
Wow.
So yeah.
That what a journey. That's I mean the perseverance to get through that. And so
Yeah.
I listened to all this, and it's like, the first thing that stands out is like, man, you persevered, and you
Yep.
got super creative out of necessity, because you saw your power
Yes.
bill and it was like, I can get better than that. And then, working through some of these loopholes, and then continuing to find, the new loophole. What the second thing that comes to mind is like, holy shit, they need something,
Yes.
or like a rate structure for like the hobbyist miner.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've always been a big proponent for that. I was actually talking with Dennis Porter about this at Mining Disrupt, who is big on being down in Washington and updating people. He's with the Satoshi Action Fund. And I chatted about this with him because he's more an advocate. Like, his advocacy is on Bitcoin and crypto mining, but it really applies to more larger level, especially
Yeah.
with the power companies and stabilizing the grid. But the downside is like, you may have thousands and thousands and thousands of these home crypto miners that are out there, just like I am, and I've heard it on my channel. You hear it as a YouTuber, and I'm fully transparent. I tell everyone about this. I have videos on exactly what I did. I show my power bills for examples. There's nothing out there. There's no plans out there. And so what I hear these people from all over the U.S. or the world too that are like, my electric rate's 18 cents, 25 cents, 30 cents, and it's like, you're just priced out of
Yes.
participating in crypto mining because of that. And there's no reason for it. It's been price gouged over the last several years to the point where it's just, and that's why I don't feel guilty about it, because it's like, it's ridiculous, some of these rate hikes that we've seen on this. And so I've always been a huge proponent of, and I'm eager to see where the future goes. I'm hoping it goes in that direction, where there's some type of board or group or cooperative available to represent crypto miners, so that you can join something like that and you're represented at a larger level. So like me, I'm just working at this as a single individual home miner. I have no representation when it comes down to my local power company. But if I had 100 other people in Pennsylvania talking to them about, all right, I have this much electric, who knows what ungodly amount of electric that would be for necessity, what can they do for us,
Mm-hmm.
for that electric rate? And that's really what needs to be out there and available to us. But I think we're quite premature on that. We're slowly breaking the ice and breaking the barriers down when it comes down to legislation and awareness, just as a crypto community, on understanding the value of crypto mining on a power grid. Texas was a great example with that the other year with the storms that occurred, where
Yep.
if the power grid was beefed up supporting miners, and in an emergency, miners needed to power down to support the grid for businesses and homes when a emergency occurs. Guess what? It's great, and it's there, and you give some financial initiative to those companies. They're all for doing it, and I think the challenge is people don't look at that, and so you instantly think crypto mining, it uses too much electric and it's stealing this electric away, and we don't want it. And it's complete opposite.
Yeah, boy, there's a lot there that I personally am very excited about and interested in. And so I had a discussion with ERCOT, and
Oh
and
yeah,
we were able to record an episode with ERCOT. And what was interesting is they actually expressed more concern than interest.
mm,
And what was interesting about it is their concern that they were expressing is like, well, yes, flexible loads, that's great. They're like, but look, our job is to balance this out.
sure,
And because their pricing signals are so different than, like, I'm up in Minnesota. Like,
yeah,
I don't have the ability to bid into the real-time spot market for power, but they
yeah,
do down there. So it was interesting to hear them. But then juxtaposed to that, I got to talk to Tim Eccles, the vice chair of the Georgia Public Utilities Commission, or rather, it's the Public Service Commission. It's the PSC there.
okay,
And he's like, look, we need all the load we can get. They just activated Vogtle 3, their new nuke plant. Like, He's like, we're all in on this baby.
They learned from Texas very quickly, it sounds
Yeah.
like, and that was Texas. I mean, is it's a learning opportunity. And I think that's something, unfortunately, in the US, our infrastructure is so outdated that, like, you go ahead and you put all this load on, and some of their first reactions are like, oh, I don't know if we can support that. Great example is a development's getting built nearby. You're going to see them build out substations in order to support that, in order to support all the additional electric. And so the challenge is like some of that comes into question as well, is as more and more crypto miners pop up. And I think the next bull run, you're going to see even more home crypto miners, because it's not just a brand new thing. We're now on the second opportunity for that. So yeah, it's definitely a challenge. I mean, I'm between you and I'm concerned about my next anniversary. So my next anniversary with my electric rate, I'm at $444 a month just on my left side now. Every year they look at my 12-month history. So that is in January is when that will be up. So as I approach and get closer, my goal is to actually reach out. PPL, as I said, is that distribution side, and say, listen, I've been going with all these other suppliers because you guys, you can't compete. What opportunities do you have? Here's 2.5 years of power usage. And you've seen it growing. I continue to want it to grow. What can you guys do for me in order to make this reasonable for me to stay with you? Because coming to me and saying, hey, I'll give you 12 cents is like, that's insane. When I'm already going to have to pay additional 4.5 cents on top of it. So now I'm at 16.5 cents. It's like, nope, I'm good. Like, that's not going to work. So unfortunately, that's a challenge I look at. And that's why I even mentioned about cooperatives. So in Pennsylvania, there's actually power cooperatives that are out there I started to look into. I'm in central Pennsylvania. There's one located in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and it's one I'm going to start to look into to find out. And traditionally, they're businesses that are part of these power cooperatives that are pretty much doing what I'm doing, but from a business level. If you're big warehouses with a bunch of machinery running, you're using a ton of electric. And yes, you can expense that electric. I get it. But at the end of the day, it's still a very big operating cost. And so I want to find out, and I'm approaching all this, I have a business and LLC set up around everything I do, is to approach that and say, hey, can I get in on that? Because, I'm not just not using a little bit of electric. I'm using more electric than even some small businesses in the area use.
Yep.
And with opening another location, another shed, I'm now going to double that. So my goal is like, hey, can I get in on that? And what opportunities do I have, and what avenues can I go? So a cooperative may be the next avenue I have to go. And I know I've talked with Carter Bitsby Trippin. He's mentioned this as well as some of the avenues that he's had to go for some of his operations in order to go with cooperatives. And that's the representation we need at the end of the day.
Absolutely. The co-ops, we have a lot of co-ops up in Minnesota. We have co-ops and municipal power companies. I still need to just kind of better understand like the business models on those, to be honest, because it's like, I need to go a little deeper on how they operate. But maybe could you walk me through like what the engagement has, like, have you started engaging with the cooperative?
Not yet. It's on my plan. As we get a little bit closer, I'm going to have to be more engaged. And I want to get the second shed launched. That's where all my attention's been. I've been over there every day. It's an old, people interested. It's 12 by 12 vinyl shed that I completely renovated into being a painted plywood setup shed. And just, it takes all my time in the afternoons. I'm just there working on it. And that is where my attention is. Get that launched, get that filled. And then that's going to be my next project pretty much. Is like, okay, how do I do this? What is my approach to it? Because that's, if you're a home miner, you need to be putting just as much attention on your expenses like that. I mean, that could make or break it, where you do or don't mine because of that. And especially right now where you're, in a bear market, recording this in August, where your bear market is your profitability is so low. It's not like the bull run where everything's profitable. You can plug in anything. I mean, it's significantly lower. So I am operating as a home miner. I'm not liquidating any of my crypto. That's kind of a long-term investment plan I have. So I'm fronting those electric bills. So it's like, okay, I don't just have that income coming in from somewhere. So doing that, I need to put that attention on that electric bill because you might have to shut down for a time period until you can get that figured out, unfortunately, which is not what you want to do.
Yeah, you mentioned one of the things that I really like about like the home mining setup
Yeah.
or a very small scale operation is,
Mm-hmm.
and this is exactly what I do and did, where I went in with a deep enough reserve to
Smart.
not have to liquidate any Bitcoin
Yeah.
for 18 months initially, and then I re-upped that.
That's
So
awesome.
I did liquidate a little bit, but
Yeah.
it was enough to get through another, period of time. So, and I don't know, I guess, the big companies probably don't divulge like their actual treasury management strategy. But that's
Correct.
what I like about like the home miner
Yep.
is you see like that's a theme is people
Correct.
usually just front the power bill or
Yep.
yeah. So it's
Yeah, it
uh,
was easier to front that power bill when it was like $200 or $300 a month. But now when you're into like $1,300 a month, it's like, wait, what? But
my,
then when you're like, yeah, but I'm using almost 30,000 watts. It's like, holy cow. And when you talk with people, it's like, that's like electric for like 15 homes. It's like, yeah, I know. Like, and
uh-huh.
so I think that's where you really have to get into it. And everybody that I've talked to has always been like, go commercial, go commercial. Commercial is not your saving grace when you have price gouging occurring within the industry. Since we've kind of gone into this recession, it's definitely a challenge. We've seen boatloads of mining farms shut down. And a lot of them, as you had said, had leveraged the price of Bitcoin based off of that, 70,000 mark. And they would, they'd sell one, two, three, whatever, in order to get by to cover costs for operating electric and still be fruitful. Now I know some smaller farms that are liquidating like a Bitcoin and a half every month just to cover electric. And then they're coming out on top with a little bit, maybe another coin or a coin and a half after that with these smaller farms.
Yeah.
And that's just getting them by. And they've still shopped electric very heavily and worked locally. So yeah, I mean, in a utopian world, we would have these plans, these cooperatives that you could join as a home crypto miner
Yeah.
that would give you and allot you and reward you for being a miner. And I think like you could scale that. You could scale that in a utopian world. Hey, I'm a crypto miner, and I come to the power company and say, I will be crypto mining. You don't do that now, but you say, I will be crypto mining. Please put me on your crypto mining plan. I'm going to be using X amount of electric. They can give me this awesome rate. But then when an emergency occurs, I'm under contract to power my rigs down so that electric is available for the rest of the grid, and give me some initiative. Give me
Absolutely.
lucrative, make it lucrative for me. Hey, you're going to have to shut down for 2 weeks to help us support the grid after this disaster. No problem. And they compensate you. They compensate you in some way, but you've also been compensated for having that lower electric rate too. And then it's like, great, everybody and their brother is going to be like, I'm a crypto miner. Versus now, it's like, I'm not going to say anything. I'm not telling them I'm a crypto miner. I'm not going to advertise that, because an electric company hears that and it's instantly the stigma of, we don't want to do business with that person. And it's like,
Yeah.
but you don't understand. Like, it's a value to you.
Could we maybe play that out a little bit? I'd be curious. So
Do it. Go for it.
yeah, no, because I mean, and this is a little bit selfish. I'm actually getting
Do it.
lunch next week with the Minnesota Public Utility Commission.
Oh, there we go.
So I'm kind of already, my wheels are already spinning on this because
Yeah.
you're right. It's needed. All right. So you get like a home miner or a crypto
Mm-hmm.
miner program set up with the utility company. Does it look like kind of your standard curtailment program where it's like you just said, where they have the ability to turn so let's even go deep on it. You're using Foreman software. You give the
Yep.
power company access to the API, which
Now you're
when
asking
they're
too much. Come on, now we're crypto miners. We're not going to give people access to our stuff. I think it would more look along the lines of like, okay, you approach a crypto just like you have commercial, residential, industrial rates, you have a crypto mining rate. And granted, you'd probably swing it differently, like a high usage rate. You wouldn't give it the crypto mining name, but you would approach them and say, hey, I'm interested in using this. I'm a home miner, so let's just approach it from the home miner perspective. I'd like to elect to be into that. Great. What is your estimated amount of electricity that you plan to use per month? It's going
so
to
we can
be
calculate that pretty quickly.
easily.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, as home miners, you know what you're using.
Yep.
And the electric company can come back and say, okay, great. So for 2 months, we're going to give you this rate to kind of prove your usage, right? So they give you a rate. Let's say it's 10 cents. Even that is competitive to a degree. Not great, but let's say it's 10 cents. Okay, great.
Yep.
And that's 10 cents across the board. That's not like it's just 10 cents all said and done. Then after 2 months, they go, okay, you've proven yourself. You do have that. A lot of times they call that a load letter when you're looking at some of these higher, larger
Mhm.
farm setups. And then they come in and say, great, we'll drop you to 7 cents because you've proven yourself that great. And, let's go ahead. And they do a 12-month contract. So you're locked in for 12 months for 7 cents. Awesome. Okay. At the end of that year, you can reapproach them because now let's say you're a miner. So traditionally you're expanding. Now you have more electric. So you can approach them after a year. But on the return side of that contract that you sign, you are electing to support the grid. So maybe this is more of you call this like the support the grid plan. You're supporting the grid with your usage that you're using. They know it. They can plan for it because we've gone through this trial period, our plan for growth. But you elect to go, okay, I'm willing to power down in the situation where an emergency occurs. And that more is, instead of giving them that control, it is very much they reach out to you and say, hey, we're in a state of emergency per our agreement. We need you to power down for X amount of time. And,
Could
I
I
go for it.
maybe jump in right at that
Yeah,
particular point
please.
and say, so maybe, instead of giving access to like Foreman
Yep.
software to shut you down, would it just be making a penalty so egregious for
Yep,
not
I
powering
would
down that?
100%.
And I ask that because the power companies do kind of immediately go, well, okay, the incentives in crypto and Bitcoin mining are such that, if Bitcoin rips to 100,000 and we have an adverse weather event,
Yep.
why would they turn off?
Yeah, that's true.
So you're
Yep.
going to need like a pretty hefty penalty if you
Yeah,
don't
you'd have
turn
to have a
off,
fee
or
in there, and maybe you'd terminate your contract. So now all of a sudden, like you got to
yeah,
think of it from an
yep.
operating side. Like that's huge
You
if
could
you're
lose your
planning.
contract, yeah.
Exactly. And I think that would be a huge value. And even if it's like, hey, we need to power off for 2 weeks. And then even some compensation in there where then it's like the next following month we'll drop your rate 50%. So that it's like, wow, this is really lucrative for me. I'm okay with shutting off. I can tell customers if you're a hosting company, hey, we're going to shut off, but our electric rate will be 50% less next month. So like, I think you just have to work together to make it work for both parties. And I think that's the big one there. Good communication, everything is clear in writing. It's valuable to both of us. And I think
Yeah.
it would go a long way because these power companies at the end of the day, I think once they see the value in stabilizing that grid, in having that consistent power, it's not like I'm a house that uses a boatload of electric for 3 days and then it's gone the rest of the month. That's huge fluctuations. This is traditionally your mining, your power does not fluctuate. You're pretty steady across the board.
Yeah. Oh man, we could riff on this for a long time because now
Yep.
I'm even spinning more as like, ooh, you could set up like a tier. So like you could take
Yeah.
a grid system and say, okay, you've got institutional level mine 100 megawatt facility.
Yep.
That's like the Mac Daddy. If they
Mhm.
really need big power, they can tap that. And then you've got medium scale, they can tap that. And then you've got this home miner, hobbyist miner like rate case where it's like, okay, in Minnesota today it's 95 with a heat index of 110.
Whew.
It's kind of spicy here in Minnesota. All right, let's tap the home miner to turn off because we're going to need
Yeah,
that
because you
power
could tier it based
yeah,
off of your needs. So you could start with your home miners and then make your way up to those
and
big
work
boys
up. Yeah.
as you need it. I mean, I think
Yeah.
I've looked a lot into variable rates, and I actually know a few people, other content creators and stuff in the scene. One gentleman's name is Max Voltage. He literally has an app on his phone connected with the power company with their variable rate, and it's changing per hour to the point where like 1 hour it's like close to nothing, and he's got everything on, and the next hour it's like 25-30 cents, and he's like, nope, everything's off. That's insane. Like that the electric rates float like that, and like where and playing that game, you talk about my game I play with the power company on rate shopping. Imagine rigs are up and down all day long. Like holy cow, like that is not do well for you at all. And so but it's a shame you have to play that game. That's the real point of it all.
I completely agree. I think we can get to a point in the near future where we're all playing together to smooth out that power cost to everybody, and that's just a happier world that we're going to be in. So I do want to keep a tab on the time. Just to
Man, we
make
could talk
sure.
forever here. Man.
I know, like I said, we could riff on it for a long time. I wanted to also touch on, so you said it at the very top of the show.
Sure.
Content was kind of the number
Mhm.
one. Maybe talk to me about your YouTube channel a little bit. And this would be a good point also to, what is your YouTube channel, and
Sure.
maybe kind of just walk through how that's been going, and what maybe tease out some fun things you're working on for the show.
Yeah. So you can find all my content, everything about me on my social media, my YouTube. You can schedule meetings with me. I do consulting as well. I've kind of grown pretty significantly since like a home crypto miner that doesn't know what I'm doing. Over at the hobbyistminer.io. Everything's over there. It's actually a full site built on the Flux blockchain. So it's completely decentralized. Like I
Oh,
am fully immersed in crypto with that. But yeah, so my YouTube channel, social media has grown significantly. We're almost at 70,000 subscribers on YouTube, about 9 million views over the last 2.5 years. So we've definitely taken off. Yeah, my channel has really changed. We went from home GPU mining rigs to, now we got ASIC content over there, shed builds. I document my entire shed builds, everything I'm doing, why I'm doing it, very educational stuff. Like, here's why I'm doing the intake this way and why, and testing and stuff like that. But that's grown into mining events I've been to, like Mining Disrupt here. I've done some mining farm tours. I've partnered with some mining farms that are offering hosting. So I'll go out to them and do a whole tour and
yeah.
provide that to you guys. This actually Friday, I fly out to a mining farm in South Dakota that's also building out a mining software, a mining OS and a mining software.
Where in
So
South
they have
Dakota?
Sussex Falls is the name of the
Sioux
is where it
Falls?
is. Sioux Falls, yeah. See, I've
No,
never,
I know.
never even been there. So I literally fly out Friday for there, and I'm going to document that, do a whole mining farm tour. I'm going to be down in Fort Lauderdale next month at Cypherpunk. It's a Flux event that they're hosting. The month after that, I'll be in Texas at a container farm. So like all of that is all on my channel. And so, yeah, my channel has significantly changed from the little stuff to now it's like home crypto mining, but then, we're at a massive facility chatting with the owners there. So it's been a lot of fun, a great journey. And I document it all on YouTube, and I post way too much on Twitter as well. So you can check out all of that over there.
Oh, that's awesome. Sioux Falls is it's that'll be cool. I can't even think
Mm-hmm.
of who that might be. So that
Mm-hmm.
I'll bug you for it offline.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I'll hook you up.
I
I'll hook you up.
we won't spoil it by because that'll be awesome to see that video. I love
Yeah.
that you're starting to now get in, because the path that you've laid out for your audience is awesome. Like,
Mm-hmm.
starting, okay, now you've got a handle on this, let's grow it at the home. Now, okay, we outgrew the home, let's put it in the shed, and now let's
Yeah.
start to look at like these bigger operations to really show people a look that most people
Yeah.
don't get. There's not a lot of videos of these large facilities, and the ones you see are so polished up. Like, you go watch the
Oh
Riot,
yeah.
like, it's such a polished production,
Oh
in the
yeah.
sense that,
Yeah.
like, they're going to show you only what you want to see,
And this
type of
isn't a
thing.
traditional mining farm where you make do. I mean, I will say a lot of the things, like, I'm all about learning, and so like I share all my journey, everything I've learned, all my mistakes are on my channel as well. Like, I'm the first one to admit those. But what has been nice about a lot of the mining farms I've started visiting over the last year is that I get ideas from that. And that's where the shed came in. It was like these mining farms are just full intake walls and exhaust walls, and they're
Yeah.
just building wind tunnels. It's like, I could do that with a shed for a cheaper price. And that's actually where a lot of what came out of COVID was the mining shed idea, because it was like, man, I can do this for significantly cheaper. And that's kind of where I went with that. So taking the ideas these big guys are doing, I'm even going to start dabbling into some home immersion kits. I've been to a few immersion farms, and I'm like, I like it. So I have an
Oh
immersion kit
boy.
from the team at Fog Hashing, and I'm going to be building that out and starting to look at that. So it's like, it's not just one little thing on my channel and my content. I am all over the place when it comes down to the different levels.
Is it going to go full time for you, do you think?
Maybe someday. The mining is the mining and the content go hand in hand, which has been good. I still work a full-time career within the tech space at an e-commerce company. The challenge for me is, like, as everybody knows, crypto is so volatile, and with
I
us
know.
being in the bear market now, it doesn't just affect the price of crypto. Like, most content creators can speak to this in the space. 90% of our viewership we're down 90%. Because no one, the growth right now is not there versus coming into the market during the bull run. So that's a really hard one to kind of take that gamble on, hey, because previously I could do content creation and that would cover all of my operating expenses, my income for the month. That's not the case
Yeah.
anymore. The content doesn't cover that. And I don't want to be liquidating an investment like crypto
Yeah.
just to cover it. So it's a gamble, but maybe someday we'll have to see how the next bull run goes and if that runs for a few years.
Yeah, I had to ask because I really do love the journey you take your audience
Mm-hmm.
on and the content that you create. So this has been an absolutely phenomenal conversation. And yeah, I mean, we'll probably have to do a follow-up because
Mm-hmm.
I think there's still quite a bit, we could keep riffing on how to structure a
100%.
rate type stuff. And uh, if you ever get out into the Midwest again, maybe I'll even bug you for, you know, to be a shadow on some of these trips for you. Or
Oh,
maybe,
yeah.
what we'll do? We'll get you down to Houston. We'll get you out to a Giga Energy facility.
Sounds
We'll
perfect.
we'll let you crawl around a flare gas site.
That'd be awesome. Flare
That'd be
gas. I
sweet.
mean, we could talk about that and just like alternative energy, like especially even as a home miner, extensively. An hour is not enough time here. I'm telling you, Ben.
I
It's not enough
know,
time to
I
talk
know.
with me.
This has been absolutely phenomenal. Please give one last handoff. I know you touched on your socials and where to
Yep.
find you, but if you have any other handoff or way that you want the audience to be able to get in touch with you, please.
Yeah, absolutely. As I said before, the hobbyistminer.io, I recently launched that just about 2 months ago. I wanted one location to promote and for people to find everything. My email's over there, Telegram's there, Discord community. We have 10,000 people in our Discord community just chatting about mining all day long. All my content can be viewed over there. So go over and check it out. It's a pretty cool site, thehobbyistminer.io.
Awesome. Thank you so much for this. Lots of there's going to be a lot of fun conversations in the future too. So I appreciate this a ton, and you take care.
Thank you.